All right, let's dive right in. Today we are going to tackle a question that I think a lot of people have wondered about. Why is it that you can pick up two different Bibles, look at the same exact verse, and have it sound totally different? We're going to get into the really fascinating world of translation theory to figure it out.
You know how it is, right? Maybe you're in a Bible study, and somebody reads a verse, and you're kind of looking down at your own book thinking, wait a minute, that's not what mine says at all. It's a super common thing, and believe it or not, it's not a mistake. It's actually a very deliberate choice that translators have to make.
You can think of the whole thing as a journey. You start with the original text, something written thousands of years ago in a totally different language, like Hebrew or Greek. In the middle, you have this super important bridge. That's the translation process. And that bridge is what carries the ancient message all the way over to us, to you, the modern reader.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the basic challenge of getting from an ancient text to a modern one. Then, we're going to look at two big ideas: formal equivalence, which is a word-for-word style, and dynamic equivalence, a thought-for-thought style. After that, we'll see how they all fit on a spectrum, look at a real-world case study with inclusive language, and finally, wrap it all up with how you can be a smarter, more informed reader.
So what is translation, really? I mean, on the surface, it seems simple enough. You just take a message from one language and pop it into another. But as we're about to find out, that simple goal gets really complicated really fast.
Let's get a couple of key terms down so we're all on the same page. The source language is the original, so for us, that's Biblical Hebrew and Greek. The receptor language is what it's being translated into, like English for you and me. The translator's entire job is to build that bridge between the two.
And this right here, is the million-dollar question for every single translator. It's the central conflict. What's more important? Should you stick as closely as possible to the original words and sentence structure of the source language, or should you prioritize making sure the meaning is perfectly clear and natural for the person reading it today?
So let's jump into that first philosophy and see how it answers that question. This is the word-for-word approach, and the technical name for it is formal equivalence.
So what does this actually mean? Well, basically, translators using this philosophy are trying to create a mirror of the original text. They want to show you the exact wording, the grammar, and even the sentence structure of the original Hebrew and Greek.
Yeah, the big takeaway here is that it's all about faithfulness to the original form. The whole idea is to kind of transport you, the reader, back in time and let you see how the original language was put together.
But of course, there's a trade-off, right? If you stick that closely to the original grammar, the translation can sometimes come out sounding a little clunky or wooden in English. You might end up sacrificing some immediate clarity just to stay true to the form.
Okay, so that's one side of the coin. Now let's flip it over and look at a totally different approach. This is the thought-for-thought philosophy, also known as dynamic equivalence.
With this approach, the whole game changes. The priority shifts from the form of the words to the meaning of the message. The goal here isn't just to translate the text, it's about translating the entire experience.
So think about it this way. The ultimate goal is for you, reading in English today, to have the same aha moment, the same intellectual and emotional response that someone would have had reading it in ancient Greek. And to do that, translators are willing to change the sentence structure to make the core idea as clear as possible. And wow, you can really see the difference here, can't you? On the left is a super literal wooden rendering of a verse. It follows the Greek word order, but honestly, it's just confusing in English. But then look at the right. That's the NIV translation, which takes a more dynamic approach. See how they've rearranged things to give us a clear, powerful thought that makes perfect sense to us? So you might be thinking, okay, one's right and one's wrong. But the reality is, it's just not that simple. It's not an either-or situation at all.
This is a massive point. Let it sink in for a second. No matter how literal a translation claims to be, every single one is an act of interpretation. Why? Because the translator is always making choices. Deciding which English word is the best fit for a Greek or Hebrew idea is always an interpretation.
And that's exactly why this idea of a perfectly literal, word-for-word translation is, well, it's a myth. It's just plain impossible. No two languages line up perfectly. They have different grammar, different idioms, and words that just don't have a one-to-one match. A truly word-for-word translation would just be nonsense.
So instead of thinking either or, it's way more helpful to think of it like a sliding scale, a spectrum. On the far end, the more formal, word-for-word side, you've got translations like the NASB. On the other end,
The more dynamic, thought-for-thought side, you have things like the Message. And right there in the middle, you find translations like the NIV, trying to find a balance between the two. Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this all plays out in the real world with a very relevant and sometimes controversial topic. The debate over inclusive language is a perfect example of these translation philosophies in action.
So here's the deal. In ancient Greek and Hebrew, it was super common to use a masculine word, like man, to refer to all of humanity, men and women. But you can see the problem, right? When we hear the word man in English today, it can sometimes sound like it excludes women. So what do? What's the most accurate way to translate the original intent?
Check out this perfect example from Psalm 1. The original NIV from back in '84 said, "Blessed is the man." But the translation committee knew the original Hebrew was absolutely intended for everybody. So when they did the 2011 update, they changed it to, "Blessed is the one," to make that inclusive intent crystal clear to a modern reader.
And it's so important to understand this. For the translators, this isn't about promoting a social agenda. The whole debate for them is about accuracy. They're asking two key questions. First, clarity. Will today's reader get confused by the word man? And second, accuracy. Does a word like one or people actually capture the original intended meaning more faithfully in our language today?
So after all this, where does that leave you, the reader? Well, the most crucial point is that there is no single best translation. It simply doesn't exist. Each one is a different tool designed for a specific purpose.
Understanding these philosophies really empowers you. If you want to do a deep dive and study the grammar and structure of the original text, a more formal word-for-word translation is an incredible tool. But if you're just looking for readability to grasp the big picture of a story, a more dynamic, thought-for-thought translation might be perfect. So ultimately, the question isn't which Bible is the best. A much more powerful question is which translation is the best tool for what I need to do right now.